Welcome to the Nonsense in the Chaos. I am your host, Jolie Rose. It's cold and horrifically windy. The Dara storm has been whipping up a frenzy across the island. I'm of the opinion that we're all going to have to start living underground soon because we're not going to be able to keep roofs on our houses for much longer. And this is the beginning of the bad weather. This isn't an anomaly. This is the norm. The summers are going to keep getting hotter. Whichever was the hottest summer that we've recently had is going to be the coolest summer that we will know going forwards. We've kicked the hornet's nest, haven't we? And we're now suffering the consequences, and it's very clear and visible that it's happening. However, there are many wheels in motion, and today's talk and conversation is with an extremely interesting fellow. Along with other people that I've talked to, like Dennis, who I talked to earlier in an earlier podcast, an energy worker, Gordon, who's my friend that I speak to today, is a special man with a unique perspective on the world. And this is what inspires me, is that we're all living in completely different realities and we're all unique. In Gordon's world, he has a relationship with trees and the land that is communicating things with him that I find inspiring in terms of AI and in terms of Trump and in terms of all the things that are going on in the world. There are different alternative perspectives. It's taking what serves and letting go of what doesn't. If anything isn't landing right or doesn't seem true to you, then you don't need to do anything with that. But if there are things that you're like, oh, actually, that's really interesting, or that inspires me, or that gives me hope, then take it and run with it. Make the most of it, because in these days of mayhem and craziness, things falling apart and falling into pieces, the more sustenance that we can gain from different ways of seeing things and different ways of doing things and different narratives to the we're screwed or business as usual. I think that's because really I've just written an article about this for the Guernsey Press. We have two versions of reality that were sold to us through the narratives of the powers that be, and they are, don't worry, everything's fine, business as usual, which is all increasingly becoming very clear is bullshit because we just have to look outside our windows. And the other one is we're completely screwed anyway, so don't bother. And that one's the most dangerous one because in that one there's no hope. And if we don't have hope, I once saw a shaman speaking about this. He said when we lose hope, that's when people start killing their babies, and that's when absolute chaos reigns because there has to be hope. And the thing that bothers me about that is we've jumped from nothing's wrong, business as usual, to there's no hope, without that middle space, which is where there is hope and there's something we could do about it. And when you think about it logically, that's the only bit that actually exists, because the business as usual, everything's fine, was never true. We all knew that, but we dip into these things in and out. Sometimes we lose hope, sometimes we act like business as usual, and sometimes we care and we're doing something about it. And for sanity and for practical reasons, we have to do that. No eco warrior is all day long fighting the system. At some point it's going to the shop and getting food. At some point you have to get the train or bus or whatever. At some point you're doing business as usual, and at some point you lose hope. I'm speaking from experience. I totally lose hope on a regular basis. Sometimes I believe what I'm saying and believe my inspirational chat. Sometimes I'm like, I don't believe anymore. We all dip in and out of it. And sometimes I'm just chucking stuff in the bin or whatever. We're all doing all of it. So there's no need to beat ourselves up for any of this. But that bit in the middle of business as usual, which was nonsense anyway, and there is no hope, we're screwed. Therefore, then we have just Mad Max and chaos reigns. I don't think any of us really want that. There is this middle space, which is the present, which is the only bit that's actually real, which is there is plenty that we could do about it. We need to use our imaginations. We need to admit that there's a problem, and we need to start doing something about it. In that space, there are all of us, And we all have different perspectives and different realities. It's useful to dip into other people's realities because they give you insights and ideas that you would never have thought of, which is why I encourage men to hear podcasts about women's cycles and about women's workings. And it's why I would invite you now to enjoy and immerse yourself in the reality of Gordon, because his world is beautiful and I love it. He lives in a world of Ents where the trees speak to him and where he has downloads and instructions and communications from the earth, and they're inspiring and beautiful. I have also got this inkling and experience myself when we walked listening to the land on our pilgrimage to COP26. I did begin to hear it, and my relationship with it ever since has been a very sentient two-way relationship. It's not as clearly languagey or instruction-y as it is with Gordon. Some of the pilgrims I walk with have different experiences too. Some people feel that they can feel the shape and size of the energy lines and have energy experiences. I notice synchronicity and light quality. The light goes twinkly and weird synchronicities will keep happening, and sort of signs and just a feeling of safety and security. Sort of atmospheres. I feel an atmosphere. But I can't feel a definite change in energy in space. I've had the odd download of information. I got a download that energy lines were a more direct line to communicate with the Earth. Don't really remember where I was when that happened, but that happened at some point. The Earth told me that's what the energy lines are. And I have had nothing but incredible things happen in my life since I've been working with the earth and the lines, which all might just be coincidence, but it feels way more in flow than that. It feels like my life's gone into a flow that's more a reflection of my higher self, which I feel I've gained by shedding the made up world and embracing the real world, which is the earth that we live on. I am bereft this year from not walking. It was good to do it because I suppose in a way I needed a break from the body of work I was doing, and for the insight that it's given me, which is I definitely need to walk every year because I feel like I haven't seen my mum for a whole year and really spent proper time with her. It's someone who's integral to your being that I haven't got to see this year, and I feel bereft from not doing so. I know I can go outside and go for walks, but it's not the same as fully having a 7-week window of immersion in her. I really miss her. So it's something that I've learned. I'm going to introduce you now to Gordon Field. He's an amazing guy. I met him through the first pilgrimage I walked on my own. He mentions Hamish Miller, who he talks about going on a dowsing workshop with. He wrote The Sun and the Serpent, which is the book about the Michael and Mary lines, which were the first lines I walked on my first pilgrimage. So I'll share that in the notes. So his book, The Sun and the Serpent, and they got halfway across the country before they realised there were 2 energy lines and not one, and they had to go back to the beginning and start again. They discovered through dowsing the Michael and Mary lines, energy lines that run through the sacred sites of the ley line, which is a straight line drawn with a ruler by someone through the sacred sites going from Cornwall to Norfolk. They noticed this line, they drew the line, and then went dowsing and discovered energy lines that aren't fixed. They move around and fluctuate in size and strength. They're more like energy lines in the body. When Gordon's talking about dowsing and going on a dowsing workshop with Hamish, it's a big deal that he got to meet him, and he was a very special man before he passed away. I just wanted to begin with reading this quote. It's a quote from the Ents from Lord of the Rings, and then we will dive into meeting Gordon. When spring unfolds the beechen leaf, and sap is in the bough, when light is on the wildwood stream, and wind is on the brow, when stride is long, and breath is deep, and keen the mountain air, come back to me, and say my land is fair. So with that, let's speak to Gordon, and I'll see you on the other side. I want to say a huge welcome to Gordon Field, who I've been going to chat to this evening. I met Gordon and his partner Geraldine in 2020 when I did my first pilgrimage, walking the Michael and Mary energy lines from Kenilworth, just below Land's End, on the Cornish coast, all the way to Hopton-on-Sea on the Norfolk coast. Where did we meet? We met at the church. Which church was it?
St. Michael Church.
Whereabouts?
That's the each year.
Yeah. And I'd never met you before. How did you hear about me?
I found you on the Energies group on Facebook, and you said you were going to do the walk, and I offered you accommodation.
Thank you, Geraldine. And I got a message from you both, and you said you had something for me, and I had no idea what it was. Before we get on to that, I'd like to hear a little bit about your background, Gordon, because I've never heard what your story is, like where you grew up and how you come to the work that you do and what the work you do is. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, I grew up in rural Sussex, on a farm, on the edge of the High Weald. My main interests were the farm, of course, but also the nature around me. And the only thing I really enjoyed doing was drawing, spending time out in nature. From that, I went to a secondary modern school, and you had a choice of 3 options. So when you left agriculture, horticulture, or light engineering. I went to a small primary school, grew up in a place called Dial Post, halfway between Horsham and Worthing in Sussex.
Oh, wow.
Went to the secondary school and said the options we had when we left, we were being pushed towards agriculture, horticulture, or light engineering. All I wanted was to do art. I was the only one who went to art school that year. Somebody else went on to the Royal College of Music, but we were the real mavericks amongst all the normal process. I went to art college in Worthing, and that opened up everything for me in terms of college. My mind was opened up completely. And I spent 4 years there. I did a foundation year and then concentrated in exhibition design. And the idea was that I would then go on to work as a designer in the exhibition industry. In my final year at college, there were many union disputes at places like Gold's Court and Olympic. But basically the exhibition industry I've been trained disappeared. So I ended up doing more exhibition graphics. I worked for design consultants. The main one I worked for was some architects based in London, and they had a contract with the Ministry of Defence. And so my first job was designing window displays to recruit young men to join the art. Yes. But it was good. I started off at Wilton near Salisbury, and then the job moved up to Aldershot. I didn't like Aldershot. I got a job with another firm of architects. After a year, the original company asked me would I take over the office in Chester. And Chester was really nice place to go. So I thought, I'll go there. That job covered the whole of Wales, the West Midlands and the Northwest. So I took most of my time travelling around giving advice, and, acting as a consultant. But then after a while, I got a bit tiring. The office was going to move to Preston. Didn't want to go there. So I used my skills and knowledge I had to become an art lecturer. So I went to Carlisle. So I was there for 4 years teaching art and design. Eventually I moved to Taunton, where it was the senior lecturer in graphics, but then I went into art design. So the graphics I didn't enjoy. So I went into just teaching post-16. I lived there through stress because I was fighting the system where people coming into the college decided they didn't want drawing anymore. For an art education, that's a bit sort of wasn't for me. So I was fighting that. And they wanted to try and do exams as well. I was signed off through stress for a whole year. My doctor said, you're never going back there again. That year was probably the most creative year I've ever had. I produced so much work in that time. Although I wasn't feeling brilliant, I still produced work. A few years later, I was working as an artist in residence in primary schools. When you go into primary school, the children there, minds are so open, and I learned so much from them. At the same time, I met Geraldine, my wife, and it was then, in 2009, She booked us to do a dowsing course with the late Hamish Miller. If you want to go to a workshop, that's the one to go for. Go in a little sort of bothy building, which we stayed in for 3 nights. And the workshop and the time there, I knew that I had dowsing abilities. I tried it when I was on the farm because I used to use the hazel white stick to try and find water, but I couldn't get on with that. So I started using metal rods and now wooden rods. Above where it is Trencob Hill, which is an ancient hill fort. I would go up there, and there's remains of graves and other things there, and I would douse for those while we were there. But the thing that interested me was the tree. It was a holly tree on the other side of the hill fort, shaped by the winds and nibbled by all the animals. Incredibly shaped tree, but the energy of that tree was tremendous. Its aura or energy field around it was very, very large. So I thought, maybe it's trees I'm working with, but at that time I didn't really know. And then months later, we were in Brittany, and Geraldine's parents had a farmhouse there. Each morning, I would get up before dawn or walk along one valley to another valley with an ancient wood with a stream running through it. On the third morning, got up crack of dawn. It was really frosty and wonderful. It was about mid-March. Frosty, beautiful day. By the time I got to the wood, I had used up both batteries on my digital camera, recording things. And I walked into the wood. And I can't remember what happened to me. I got back to the house very late, and they said I was in a completely different world. I wasn't allowed to go back into the wood for the rest of the holiday because I was concerned. What I found out afterwards, the trees had made a contact with me. And since then, I've been on this strange journey with the trees. As the energies of the earth grow bigger and bigger, things are opening up. It's quite incredible. It's so now it's not only working with the trees, but it's also working with water-based energies. I'm finding portals can travel through the earth to different locations. This coming winter solstice will be the final increase of 9 increases in energy of deep within the cosmos. So it means that the earth will be transformed. It's already changing and building up. Interesting time, Lorraine.
It is an interesting time. I'm definitely feeling that as well. And there's the Pluto transition as well. Pluto's just transitioned into Aquarius. It's been 240 years since it's been in Aquarius. And the last time it was there was the French industrial and American revolutions. So it's a time of great communal change, big communal shifts. Dizzled, my partner, he turned to me the other day and said something's changing and he could feel it. I said, I can feel it too. So you talk about the beacon trees. Tell us about the beacon trees, because that was the first thing that you told me.
5 years later, I lost an experience in the wood. I was in the wood again, standing on a bridge over the street that runs through it. And I realized I was standing on the same energy line I found in our orchard back home. In the Blackdown Hills. I couldn't believe it when I found it in the orchard. That was about a year before. It said the band of energy was 3 miles wide. So I was in the ancient wood, standing on the bridge, and I suddenly realized I was on the same energy line ran through our orchard. When I mapped it out on the local maps, it took me to a relatively small oak tree. That oak tree had its normal energy field around it. And then I found there was a vortex of energy around the outside of the oak tree, and going out to the edge of its canopy. It went 12 heights above the tree and 12 heights below. And the height is from the top of the tree's canopy to the base of its roots.
Oh, wow.
It was the next few years, that energy increase became 36 heights above the tree and 36 heights below. Use the term beacon trees, because this is pure energy. If it was a physical thing, you'd have to have beacons on top of these trees to stop aircraft and other things flying into. It was so powerful. All the way along this line, which I now call the serpent line, because it circles the earth, there was these beacon trees, and then there was beacon wells and springs, which are also very powerful places. If you spend time with a beacon tree, you will gain strength and probably knowledge as well. It helped to strengthen each of us if we spend time with it.
Mm.
In 2016, an increase in energy from deep within the cosmos. I wasn't shown where, because human beings can't be trusted with that knowledge at the moment. That knowledge came in, and the energy remained 36 heights above the tree, like a cone of energy going down into the earth. Top of the tree, that 36 heights is the apex. It comes down deeper into the earth. And currently, it's 3,456 heights below each of these beacon trees. And when they first started working with them, they were few and far between. Now they're appearing everywhere. And all this energy is going deeper and deeper into the earth.
Wow. What's your sense of what that is and why it's increasing and what's happening?
It has happened before. It happened 2,500 years ago when the Buddha Enlightenment. It was also a classical period of Greek art where art and thought were transformed. This energy comes in. It's all positive energy to help strengthen us, give us knowledge, open up creativity, but above all, to open up our consciousness. Because each night increases, there's examples all around the world of different indigenous people, shamans, etc. Talking about 9 earthly worlds you have to travel through before you can go up into the heavens.
Yeah, that number's come up a few times. When you talk about that, I remember having this image described in something of the black holes where the wires coming into the universe that we were in. If it was like imagining it like a computer, that the black holes were the wires and the information was coming through these wires.
Yeah.
And there's something about what you're saying for that information to come down into the earth. It makes sense that it's going to come down through powerful trees. They're kind of the earth's aerials, so to speak. I find that really fascinating.
It also goes into the water as well with us. It's been clear as I've been working with the trees that there's a complete energy system, which is the water below us. In 2016, no energy went into the water, but in 2017, it went into the water. Places like powerful beacon springs, wells, and other locations. Until then, water had been following gravity. What happened to the water? It became vortexes of energy. What was below the ground was above the ground in terms of a vortex, in terms of energy. And that's been increasing as well as the increase that's been happening with the trees. That's why a lot of people have found quite a bit of turbulence in the energies, because these are really powerful. The tree told me to call this the elemental web. This Earth is completely covered by this water energy system. Initially, I thought it was just running water and moisture, but now I know it's the spirit of water.
Oh, wow.
So whatever we do to the surface of the Earth, it's still connecting all the way around. For instance, the Aboriginal dream time is following these water-based energy lines. It's also a system of communication. So in my view, if we build up our consciousness, we can use it all the time and probably don't need much of the technology we have at the moment.
I've got a sense of that as well, that there's much we have done and can do when we're not so distracted by outworldly things. And talk about the healing sticks. How did that whole thing
Yeah, that
occur?
was up in the Blackdown Hills. We used to have a winter gathering where we'd all, the groups of us meet up and we do contributions to it. One of the people that was our tree guardian did shamanic drumming session. By that time, I didn't have a drum. So I got 2 pieces of hazel from some sculptures I've been making, rhythm sticks. As soon as the drumming started, I was told to put the smaller one down and hold the other one at either end, horizontal. As the drumming went on, I got completely grounded. The sticks got hotter and hotter, but I couldn't let go. When the drumming session stopped, I was sitting there with very hot hands, completely stuck. I couldn't move. I checked and doused it to see what had happened, and it said, it's become a healing stick. And I thought, well, is it to get rid of bad energy? And it said, no, it's just to help heal the earth. So from then on, I was shown using hazel as a base to make the hazel sticks of a certain height, and I carve into them. It's very therapeutic, whittling away at wood days on end. They had to be activated through shamanic drumming sessions, because things have moved on since then. What we do with that is make them, activate them, and give them to the tree guardians I work with.
Mm-hmm.
So the tree guardians are about 180.
Wow, that's gone up. Yeah,
So,
I think it was 89 when we asked me to do it.
They're kind of extending all the time. I keep meeting people who are definitely on tree guardians.
Wow, that's so cool.
And the idea with the stick is you walk through the landscape and pick up energy from power points like a beacon tree or a beacon spring. And it creates a veneer of energy running through across the earth.
Oil slick.
Yeah, almost like an oil slick going across, and it follows everything. But that helps to connect the energies, and that works with the water-based energies and the magnetic energies of the earth. So it helps to strengthen the earth.
Mm. And so when I walked my
pilgrimage,
pilgrimage, that's what you gifted me when I met you in Somerset.
That's
You gave
right,
me my stuff.
Our journey, and you gave us your stick.
Yes, called John.
But John's in the house gathering energy with all the other sticks.
And she's created the spirit line all across.
Yes, I walked with Sherwin across the land and created a spirit line with him.
Yeah, so we created a spirit line. So the Michael and Mary line, they're both 2 miles wide, but you extended that energy out from there. So you strengthen the energies of the lines as you walk through the land.
It does feel like an earth massage or a kind of acupuncture type thing.
Yeah. And this led me on to our woodland ancestors, who were the ones who were doing this work. They master craftsmen in wood, but also healers. As more information comes out about them, they had a symbiotic relationship with the natural world. They were the ones who went through the land healing it locally or on long trips through the land. And it's also a society where they would spend time in the company of trees. When they were in certain trees, they would be joined by all the creatures around them, all the elementals and the spirit beings. Some of these trees were very powerful portals where they got knowledge and helped with their work.
But I love that.
Yeah, so all the Celtic tree lore comes from the Terra. Celts thought the Terra would be part of the Celtic root, but they would keep their own separate life. When Christianity came in, they had to keep a very secret double life. They were the people who built the churches, cathedrals and abbeys. They would go to church in the morning, probably, and in the afternoon they would go off to their beacon and spend time in the company of that.
So talk a little bit about what the experience is of how you communicate with the trees. Like how I know these are one of the things that's really difficult to describe because it's an inner world thing, but just a little bit of how you might describe that experience. Like how literal is it or how does it come through?
When we first started, I was told to put my hand on the tree. So I put my hand on the tree. But when I touch the tree, my hearing goes complete. I can't hear anything. And all of a sudden, I hear the tree. And then I hear the creatures that have an interaction with the tree. And then eventually all the other noise comes in. And sometimes when I touch certain trees, I'm either very, very small or very, very large. Or, in most cases, I go deep underground and have to press a stop button to get back up again. That whole nature changes in certain aspects of that. And to start off with, I was just working with asking about their well-being and their energy levels. I would check to see whether they're okay, and if there's something I could do, I would do that to help them. I would walk out from the trunk of the tree to find the edge of its energy field. Early on, I could do that quite easily. It wasn't too far. But now with the increase in energies, it could be walking miles, half miles. Not away from the tree because the energy is built out. We moved into a house. It was the oak tree in the front garden, and because that's a beacon tree, and I know support that gives me information through visions and insights, which I then follow on and check to see. I'm always careful. I don't mention things until I've checked to see I'm on the right track. Being an artist, I think my imagination sometimes could take over, but I'm always checking to see whether I'm on the right track and the information is right. I'm arranging a conference on the Blackdown Hills on the edge of an ancient wood, and I was asked to go along to see whether the wood would be happy with the conference. And they wanted to have breakout groups, found fire pits in the woods, so I had to find out whether they were happy with that. And the tree were happy with that. Company, very nice, with the middle people. But while I was there, I had a sort of thing in my head, I'd ask a tree how old it is. So I went to one of these very old oaks, and it told me it was over 1,000 years old.
Cool.
And then I couldn't quite believe it, so I kept asking. Later on, when I went to Kew Gardens, where a lot of the trees, they know exactly where they were planted. Before I looked at the plaque next to them, I would douse a tree, and I was right every time from then on. I sometimes just ask a tree a few times because they haven't had contact with us for so long. Then things started moving out there, really. So it was an incredible journey.
Wow, that's so cool. That's amazing. I love it. What an incredible story. I think we should pull the cards and see what the universe wants us to talk about. I'm interested to see what comes up.
Like synchronicity, yeah.
I'll go like this and you tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Oh, well, this is very apt. This is the Princess of Discs, and she is gorgeous. I love this card. This is probably my favourite card from the deck. I think she looks a lot like Ellen, and I don't know how much you know about the Ellen line on the spine of Albion. But Ellen is the goddess of the ways. She's the one that creates the paths that the animals create through the forest. Humans will follow on the hunt and they'll follow her.
Yes, yeah.
She looks like a tree guardian.
She does,
her
yeah.
healing stick. What does that bring up from the disc?
Yeah.
Yes, at Earth. It's got the yin and yang in the middle of it.
It's very much like the portal I went through recently.
What happens when you go through a portal? Tell me about that.
I've been doing lots of energy mapping. One of the guardians has got a landscaping and rewilding. So I've been doing work for some of her clients. Most clients want to do the best for their land. So I work out where the energy lines go, find the powerful trees, springs and wells are to help them. Most cases trying to keep the gardens going, etc., or build or make ponds or lakes. Short of what's been in touch with other people. Now I've now got my inbox is full of all these people wanting different jobs. And one of these was a couple who've got basically a field south of Bruton in Somerset. They wanted to do was build a house there, but they wanted to do the best for the rest of the land. So I visited them, and I do an initial map before I go there. But when I got there, I found there was a lot more going on, a lot more powerful beacon trees. So it's like some form of processional route or containment with all these trees. Then I went back home, did the second map, and that revealed much more, including a portal. With some of these beacon trees, springs and wells are portals in their own right. So I'm travelling through these ones into the cosmos, with the one in my front garden, for example. But this one was a standalone portal. One of the other girls I work with, Roberta, she's a very powerful shaman, is the only way to describe it. She's a feng shui master, and her knowledge is out of this world. She's able to go through these portals and find out where they go. This one went to a volcano, the mountain, but it's also an active volcano in southern Peru. In the other direction, it went to the sun and 12 stars. So it was quite a powerful place. The custodians of this land had a ceremony there with a fire pit over where the portals to represent the volcano. We had cacao and copal oil on the forehead. I was sitting there and they were playing some music, and all of a sudden I was off on a journey. It was a bit like Star Trek when they go to warp drive. I think I was shooting by. So it was this I'm going down a wormhole. And I found myself above the molten lava inside a volcano. But there was no heat at all. I actually saw this mountain is a sacred site. These other portals go to Aboriginal sites in Australia and North American sites, which were the Native Americans used to go to, and Japan as well. So opening up all over the place. And every time I do a map now, there's more portals. And one I've just done recently, there was only one portal that map. We visited it, and there's another 4 just in there gone. So the whole thing is opening up. And my theory is, in the past, our ancestors were communicating through these portals. That's where all that knowledge was transferred.
This collective consciousness thing.
More work needs to be done on that, but that's what I think. But also the connections to the heavens as well. If we open up our consciousness, we won't need to have a spaceship to get somewhere. We'll be able to do it by just staying where we are and traveling to that. There's already the Kogi Indians of Colombia. They travel to different worlds beyond us.
It's something that I've heard on more than one occasion from different places of how more indigenous communities are able to communicate with each other without speaking. It's much more part of their everyday existence. The tribe will all suddenly stop and they'll just start setting up camp, and there was no discussion about it. They'll just know that that's where they're doing it. And it's partly somehow they just know with each other, but also it's the land. Like, they're all listening to the land. So the land says this is the right place for you to stop, and this is a place where you'll get nourishment and water.
It's that understanding. And it's interesting, we talked earlier on about the terror meeting around a tree with all the creatures, the elementals and spirit beings. And there was no sound at all. No one was talking. It was all done through the third eye. So a telepathic connection. So there was total quiet while they were busy doing it, apart from the leaves in the tree. So we were able to do that, and we will be able to do that.
Yes. It's something that I would like to do the next pilgrimage, because I'm planning on walking another pilgrimage next year. I would like to develop the practice while we're walking of not discussing the admin, because it's exhausting and it takes up a lot of time. I want to still honour people feeling heard and having spaces to talk, but to practice knowing when to stop. If someone stops because they need to go to the toilet or something, we all just stop and don't talk about it. Being sensitive to each other and learning to do that. Part of us that I think did exist and we've forgotten, and how to develop that in ourselves.
I think we don't. I think that's a good starting point.
Because you can feel it's wrong when you do it. There's something about shouting back to people and saying, oh, we're stopping, or there's a thing going on. Something about it feels clunky and it's jarring. And actually, it feels like the right thing would be that we were just sensitive to it and just automatically stopped and were thoughtful about it, that we don't do anymore. And it feels jarring when we don't do it. Excellent. I love that. And does the Ellen line mean anything to you? Like, have you had much connection with the Spine of Albion?
Yes, because I followed your journey, and I've still got my list of work to do on finding different sites. There was one of the Guardians who's based at Lambourne. Both the lines go through his property. And it's interesting because he's an ex-racehorse trainer. Given it all up, because he doesn't like the racing industry altogether. But he's actually got both the two lines. One of the lines goes through his house where there was a beacon tree with crossing with other lines. But it was quite interesting how powerful it was through there and their connections running. So it's been coming up with other people in terms of the work I'm doing. So it's like all those things, it's all interconnected. It opens up more information. But now,
well, that's what's so wonderful about doing the pilgrimages. I have no idea what connections it creates, like the ripples that it leaves behind. I love becoming aware of it, then these other connections have been made that are nothing to do with me, that I know nothing about, but it's nice to have been part of that process to somehow open things up.
Well, I'm finding all the mapping I'm doing at the moment, I'm finding so many ley lines. It's unbelievable. There's 2 energy lines that create a ley line, and there's instances of them. Well, we've named one of the lines after the youngest tree guardian. 10 years old. And he's a true spirit for the earth.
What's his name?
Called the Artemis line. His name's Artie.
Artie. Oh, how wonderful.
We're going to find a name for the other ones as well. But it will keep Dowsers going for years, following all the lines I'm following through. It's quite credible, the whole country.
Well, it's such a sacred land, isn't it? Because I was showing Dizzle photos of Kingly Vale the other day. And am I right in thinking that the UK was very much yew tree? I think quite a lot of our forest was yew at one point.
Actually, quite can't
You
touch
know,
that
the
sort
yew
of-
tree,
Oh, yeah,
Kingley Vale down near Chichester is a
yeah,
forest of yew trees. And I believe that a lot of England was covered in yew tree forests at one point.
yeah.
And I just showed the photos to Dizzle and I was like, how could you not think that the UK is incredibly magical and sacred if you came across this beautiful island that was covered in trees that looked like this? It looks like Lord of the Rings. No wonder everyone found it a sacred place to be.
In Britain, the beacon trees tend to be either oaks or yews. The whole place, you can almost feel it coming alive at the moment with all this energy. All these things that have been forgotten, hidden for so long are suddenly being revealed, which is quite incredible.
That's so good. I love it. Brilliant. Right, we'll pull another card. If you enjoy this podcast, then please consider supporting me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Jolie Rose. I had an interesting conversation today with someone in Chief Police about me being involved and how they really appreciate me being there because I'm left field, a low earner, and I'm educated. And so I'm bringing quite an educated, because there are other people who are educated, but I'm sort of worldly wise educated. I'm not just public school sort of educated, which I'm not, but I have had an education. I've got a degree, went to university, and I've also travelled the world. I'm obviously worldly wise and experienced in things. And so I'm bringing that to the table. It was interesting because when they were talking to me about my work and who I am, they thought of me as a barmaid and went, oh, and that, so you're doing your blog. It was funny because it's like, I, for a start, don't do a blog. I have no blog that I do. I suppose I do a video blog occasionally. Yeah, so I do a video blog if you count my YouTube videos as video blogs. But I don't write a blog. I make a podcast and I write fortnightly columns for Guernsey Press. And I make theatre and I lead pilgrimages and I'm a theatre producer and a fundraiser and an event organiser and a company director and a company trustee. And I've run a museum and I've been a stand-up comedian and I'm an actress and I'm a fool and I'm a very well-trained, highly trained fool. I've been fooling for nearly 20 years. So that's to the point where I'm possibly going to be doing a PhD soon, possibly, but I don't know. It was just interesting that the perception of me over here is as a barmaid. It was a bit of a humbling moment and I don't mind, and I do find it funny and interesting that I'm cleaning up people's puke and the urinals and everything on a 2-3 times a week basis, and I almost see it in a kind of Buddhist monk type way. I feel quite zen about doing it. It's like being of service, and also doing Chief Police because that's being in the government and it's a horrible job. It's very interesting, incredibly interesting, and I care, which is just sometimes I wish I didn't care. It's like, why do you have to care? I care, and it really is a pain in the backside that I do, because sometimes I don't know why I'm doing it because it's hard. Like, people are not grateful. I don't get invited to things. I didn't get invited to something this week, which really actually hurt. It really did hurt. Especially when the next day I have to go out in the wind and rain and go serve those people in the government, and then like working towards going and doing a public announcement and assembly in January that I'm going to just get destroyed and ripped to shreds for. And yeah, you're doing all this work and then I've got to go clean their puke up in the toilet. Why am I doing this? It was just interesting. I've got a whole history as an artist that's just not known here and forgotten. Even now, as time goes on, if you were to Google my name, Jolie Rose, it's not under that name, it's under my old name, Jolie Booth. So it just sort of disappears. I had a whole artistic career before I became Jolie Booth as well, with my maiden name, which was Jolie Pierce. That was a whole world of me doing stand-up comedy and things like that, which disappeared, especially because Pierce Brosnan and Angelina Jolie became massive. So I vanished somewhat down the Google search list. I've had different phases and careers, and I just sort of get erased every now and then, but I don't mind. It's interesting. It's also got its uses. There's definitely things about that are useful. So we all make mistakes and we're all learning as we go along, and my less professional work is gone and disappeared. So that's quite good. So there's pros and cons to it. But yeah, it was just interesting. I said this to them tonight. I have spent 20 years living as an artist, and this is the first time in 20 years that I've had to do another job in order to survive. And that's because there aren't thousands of people here who can come and watch the thing that I do. So therefore I have to do other things in order to get by. And I would love to be able to do this as a full-time job. It actually takes up so much time. It takes up at least 3 days for me to do it to the level that I'm able to, because I then have to work at the pub for 2 days, and then it's the weekend, and I also would like to have some time to myself. Plus I've got to write the column and I've got to run the government. So I do need some time to myself to have off as well. But if this could be my full-time job, then I could be doing this for 5 days a week and I could be thoroughly improving everything. There are many things that I would like to improve about what I'm doing, and further do other things like make audiobooks. And yeah, there are lots of other ideas that are out there. And I've got my second book that I want to write this winter, which I'm going to do for Creation Hibernation. I think I might be pausing for 2 months in January, February. I'm really torn because I love doing this so much that I want to keep doing it. However, I also need to honour my Creation Hibernation time, and I think I will have a break for 2 months from the start of January. I've got podcasts sorted till then. From the start of January till in bulk, I think I will be having a break so that I can fully immerse myself and write my second book about the second pilgrimage that we walked from London/Isle of Wight to Glasgow/top of Scotland. And it's going to be a big bit of work, that, because I'm writing about 34 people who walked with me, and the energy lines and the intensity of that whole experience was full on. So I am going to go for a bit of an emotional journey reliving that and writing that. So I need to honour that process. It will mean that I will then be doing a season 2, and I have some really exciting guests lined up for that. So I'll be coming back with a plum, and I think that is what I'm going to do. I've said it now, so it looks like that's what's happening. But I would really love to be able to make this my full-time job. If you're able to support me, then just for £3 a month, that's the basic kind of support. That's like you buying me a drink or a cup of tea to say thank you for doing the podcast, or because you're my mate and you're just like, nice to see you, here's a pint. If you think that's something you might do, then if you're able to support me on Patreon, that'd be amazing. I do put other content up as well. You get the videos of this podcast, videos for the moon ceremonies where I do readings and card readings, and occasionally I just randomly put stuff up, like today. I think that I will be, as part of the Creation Hibernation, doing some writing on Patreon over winter, even if it's us meeting up for an hour to sit and write. It will just be to write together. I might share some creative stuff as well, exploring my process and sharing that. If you're interested in writing and that's something that you would like to do and explore, then sign up to Patreon and just get in touch with me. It would be good to hear from you with your thoughts on anything that I just said. I will also be doing an immersion for In Bulk the first weekend in February at the Chill Inn in Sark. We spend a weekend just absolutely deliciously relishing the beginning of spring, the snowdrops, the whiff of the scent of summer on the air, the first rays of light. We'll go skinny dipping, warm ourselves around the fire afterwards, and sharing magic. We will make magic wands. It's just a delight. So I would love you to come and join me. It's very limited numbers. I only let there be 7 people. There's 9 in total because there's me and the woman who runs the space, which is gorgeous, and she's lovely. So there's only 7 spaces and people already want to come. So if you are interested, get in touch with me. I haven't started advertising it yet, but I will be imminently. It's very exciting. This is my birthday month and my birthday's on New Year's Eve. So I'm looking forward to that, going to have a 20s party. I'm very excited. My intention for next year is to explore sound and singing and my voice and to develop my voice. So if anyone has any ideas or knows about any workshops, and also, as I mentioned in my last podcast, I'm looking for a retreat or something to go on myself. So I'm just trusting the universe, and I know something will come my way that I can afford or that feels right. But just keep me in mind if anything's coming up or passing by your way and you know about, let me know. And if you have any desire or anything to work with me on writing for Creation Hibernation, get in touch. All right, thank you, and on with the show. So you tell me when to stop.
There. Yeah.
Ah, this is another lovely card. So this is the Queen of Cups, and this is very much the inner world, a person looking into a pool of water, the inner imaginative world. And actually, the question I was asking you, it's a bit like what I've already asked you. Let me just see what this is on there. Yes, there's a stork on there, and a woman, you can just sort of see her leg and her skirt, but she's holding a bowl. It's all the ripples, all these waves and ripples. So it's the water. And yeah, what is it that you think's going on? What is the water and the energy in this inner world thing? What is happening and why is it waking up now? What's triggering the land to wake up now?
With the water, that is being completely activated. That's become powerful. But also the energy that's going down below the tree, that's going deeper into the earth. And that's going to bring up more energy. At the moment, I won't know until the afternoon of the winter solstice.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I'll start getting the information. What I believe will happen is that the energies of the water will double again, getting more powerful. And the height below the tree will also double, going closer to the center of the earth. A lot of people believe that the center of the earth is not the molten lava we're used to. It's most of a different realm altogether. We won't really know until probably next year what's happening with these energies. I think it's going to energize everything around us. We're going to have to adjust to these energies. We're only starting to do that. This will be very powerful. I think it's even more powerful this time because what's happening within the heavens, all these changes with the energies there. I think this is the time when we've got to work with the earth. Also the idea of the 9 earthly worlds. To become a priest with the Kogi Indians, you have to spend about 7 years in isolation, mainly in darkness. Because that is you're traveling through 7 of the earthly worlds and be able to go beyond that. So you can understand the world itself and then you can travel beyond the earth. Their knowledge is incredible.
I've been talking about the number 7, the Fool, the 7 stages to the Fool, which is the technique that I've worked and have trained in. Is with Fooling with Jonathan Kay. That's about the 7 being the sacred number. I've been working a lot with the Venus cycle recently, and she hooks up with the moon 7 or 8 times in her journey to go back into the sun. So becoming evening and morning star. Venus is reflected in this journey, which was the story of Inanna, the goddess Inanna. She goes through the 7 gates of hell and loses her power items as she goes, gets stripped down to nothing, and then dies in the underworld. And her supporters and the people who cared about her nourish her and bring her back to life. They give her each of the garments back as she comes back through the 7 veils and returns to the world renewed. And that reflects in the Venus journey. So it seems like there's so many things marry up with this and mirror it in the cosmos and in our mythology.
I think also it's going to be easier to do that. We won't have to spend 7 years in isolation to be able to travel through the earthly worlds because of this energy coming in. It's helping us. But we all have to work at it. And to work at it, we have to reconnect with the earth itself. It has all the answers we need. It's been hidden or forgotten. But that change is on the way.
I definitely feel it. An interesting conversation I had with Dennis, an energy worker who's done quite a bit of the pilgrimaging with us. And he says he thinks we're actually going to vibrate into a totally different reality and that's going to be happening shortly. That's based on some Indian mythology. It feels like there are lots of different myths and stories about us breaking into some other place
Yes.
and that this is the time.
Yeah. Yeah. In case of working with trees, there's occasions where time and space have changed. I've been on journeys where I had to travel on my own, spend time with them. The first time I went to Wiston's Wood, I was going to go with Geraldine, but Geraldine, the link was playing up, so decided not to come. So I was meeting the others in the group at Postbridge, Dartmoor. I'll meet up at the car park there. I got to the car park, plenty of time. I waited and waited. They never turned up. I went to Two Bridges, which is the nearest spot to Wiston's Wood. Couldn't get into the quarry or the hotel across the road to park the car. So I found a lay-by on the other side of the village. It was a really hot day, and I walked up to the wood, and I was told to go round the western side and found a point to go in. Took me to this tree. As soon as I walked into the wood, it was lovely and cool. There was lots of other people in the wood. I couldn't hear them. All I could hear were the birds and the breeze in the leaves of the tree. When I left the wood, I checked to see whether the others were there. Said no. I kept saying they weren't coming. I then went back towards the car and thought, I'll have a cream tea. No, go and sit in the car, rest, and go back home, was the instruction I got. They were in the car park at the same time as I was. I never saw them. They never saw me. We later found out our cars were parked in exactly the same parking place.
Oh, wow.
When I left the wood and asked whether they were there, they were at the bottom of the wood. If I'd gone to have a cream tea, I would have met them. And I wasn't supposed to meet anybody at that particular journey. We spent time with a tree, and you think you've only been there for a short while. You could be there for hours. So time is stasis almost, really. So it's a very, very powerful thing. And it's all these other different realms, I think. Talking to other guardians, they can travel to these other realms. And that's what I think we opened up to us.
Yeah, and what's possible, which is really exciting. And
I'd
love to be
exciting times, yeah.
transported by trees. That would be amazing. Right, let's do the last one.
Yeah, there. About there.
So this one is a tree, and it's prudence. It's the 8 of discs, and it's these beautiful kind of windmill type flowers that are spinning with a twisting, spinning tree coming up. And it's got the symbol of the sun at the top. You can see it's going down into the earth, and it's prudence. I think this card's got a really joyful feel to it. It's interesting that it's reaching up to the sun because that's where the information's coming down. What does that feel like to you? Prudent, and it's the 8 of discs.
I think it just shows the energy of the trees, that connection, because for some of these trees are a connection to the cosmos. If you could spend time with them, they'll take you to that. That's the way they're going, I think. This is what a lot of them are going to be doing. If you spend time in their company, you will be traveling. Opening up our consciousness is the important part of that. If we spend time in their company, things will open up. And also, we spend time in the company with water at springs and wells, beside rivers. That will also open up your connection.
And it actually brings it onto the Chaos Crusade, because that kind of feels, I don't know if you thought about the Chaos Crusade at all, but it was, what is a thing that people could do for them to have a different experience of reality? That feels like it's to do with that. But what idea do you have for your Chaos Crusade?
Put your ear to the tree, listen to the tree, spend some time with that, then just spend time in that tree's company. You will start hearing and seeing things, even smelling things around you. And that's the important thing of spending time with the trees, is their connection. If you see the world from the tree's point of view, you see completely different. Things slow down, become relaxed, you become strengthened. A lot of people think, when you go to a tree, you should hug it. The last thing you should do is hug it on the first visit. It's just far too forward. You should just place your hand on the tree, place your ear on the tree, and just make that connection with it. Make the connection with the tree and listen to what happens around the tree, and it will open up a great deal. It will strengthen, calm you down, but it will also start giving you knowledge and experiences.
And how long do you normally spend with a tree? If people were going to do this, how long would you say to at least give yourself to?
So I was saying whatever's comfortable to you, really. I would say at least half an hour in the company tree. But you'll probably find that half an hour has turned into an hour or even longer. But certainly about half an hour. You've got to spend some time with it to experience what it experiences. And the best way to spend in time with a tree is to place your back on the trunk of the tree or sit with your back to the trunk of the tree, because then your chakras are connected. It also means you're looking out and experiencing what the tree sees and feels.
Yeah, that makes sense, seeing the world through the eyes of the tree. And can it be any tree? I think you were saying that beacon trees are ones that people tend to be drawn to, like the tree you climbed as a child. I'm actually taking Dizzle to go and meet my beacon tree, the one I sent a photo to you, one you said that's a beacon tree, which I used to climb as a child. So I'm looking forward to introducing Dizzle to that. We called it the Jedi. The trees that you climbed as a child were probably beacon trees. Does it matter what trees you sit with?
It doesn't matter, no. And the interesting thing now with the elemental web, because the energy lines cross below all of the trees, the very large one, but even the smaller ones all interconnect. So you'll be connecting with other trees. You can ask to connect to other different locations. And in a way, that's where our communication system will improve from then on. We'll be able to go to trees or to springs and wells and connect with locations and ask questions and gain knowledge. My beacon trees in the front garden, one day in 4, because I've got the 4 portal trees where we live. I've got a connection to that one. It's downloading information in terms of that. We might be in a city, but with hardly a single tree around. But if we're on top of the water, the elemental web, we can connect with a tree. We can stop and spend time with that. Our connections will build up, become much stronger. We'll be able to slow ourselves down by spending time in a location with a tree or in another location, asking to be connected to them.
Yeah, I love it. Something that Geraldine taught me to do on the pilgrimage, which I really loved, is that she had a pocket full of marbles. Whenever she walked past a river or any kind of body of water, she would throw the marble in as a blessing. I started doing it with smooth stones, when you're drawn to these lovely round smooth stones as you walk along. So I started filling my pockets up with smooth stones and throwing them into the water of blessings. It was really nice on the pilgrimages to stop and acknowledge the water and to connect with the water each time. And to put this blessing into the water and know that that was then reaching out across the land. That water was permeating out into the land.
Some of the guardians have been carrying out water pilgrimages. And the energies of those rivers increased quite dramatically by just spending time walking across. Each time they come to a bridge, they make an offering into the water, and that is transforming the waterway systems in the country.
It's just a beautiful thing to deepen one's relationship with the land. That's been the thing that I've been so passionate about in the last 4 years, is that realizing the two-way sentient relationship that occurs when you open yourself up to it, and that this can keep deepening. We all have our own ways of doing it. The earth is working with us all in different ways. It is doing it. It definitely is.
No way is wrong, but the message I get from the trees is that the only way forward is to reconnect with the land itself.
Exactly.
That's the only way forward for all of us, really. And if we do that, it will open up knowledge and skills and our consciousness.
I love that. Well, that's a beautiful place to end. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. So that was Gordon and Geraldine popping in a little bit there. It was such a treat when I met them. came out of nowhere. The universe brought them to me, and they've ended up being such special people. They came over for our wedding earlier in the year, and I've seen them several times on the pilgrimages. They've put us up and let us stay, and we just always have such a wonderful time. They're not just magical beings, but they're warm and they're fun and they're friendly, and I'm so honoured to have had what feels like completely different entities to the reality or universe that I live in come into my life and be in my life and become such dear friends. When I say that the land, it feels like it gave me a higher version of myself, and it opened me up. It opened me up to worlds and to people, points of view and experiences that were just completely out of my reality. I love life for that. It keeps doing that. I started in a council estate in Essex. I began as a chav. I began life as a really rough Essex girl chav, and then made my way into the world of hippie, and then made my world into the way of punk, and then techno. Actually, no, it went hippie, techno, punk, hipster, bohemian, and now weird islander. I don't even know what I am anymore. But it's with each reality, you discover new things, and now I'm kind of more like action Jaylee. That's what I call myself now. Yeah, I've gone into action mode. Like do outdoor things, which I never did before. And it's just wonderful. Reality is not a fixed thing, and our life experience has the potential to be so rich and varied. And I'm 46 on New Year's Eve, and I feel like my life's just begun. And I also feel that if I died tomorrow, I've really put the work in, I've made an effort. I did a lot. I squeezed as much as I could in, but there's so much more. And if I could, I'd live a million lives. I wouldn't want to live forever, but I'd love to just keep getting reincarnated and remember. So I just believe in reincarnation because I want it to exist. I want to be reincarnated millions of lives and to keep coming back. I want to come back sometimes black. I want to come back with a penis. I want to come back with a disability. I want to come back gay. I want to come back trans. I want to come back in all the different guises to have those experiences and to just experience what those lives are like, because it's fascinating. So that was the wonderful world of Gordon, and definitely get to know your beacon tree. So he found 2 while he was over in Sark. Really interestingly, one I already felt like the most powerful magical part of the island is my favourite bit. When we do the in-bulk immersion and the Samhain immersions, we go down there, go skinny dipping and immerse ourselves in the waters there. A place called Port de Moulin. It's not where the Celts were set up. The Celts were set up kind of a bit more central in the island, but they were spread all over. They were spread all over the island. Interestingly, it's where the monastery was built. It feels like that the energy line on this island runs through Port de Moulin. And at the top of it, there's a beacon tree, which I think is interesting. As soon as he told me where he'd found a beacon tree, I was like, yeah, I know that tree. You know them. You already know them. And the other one, very interestingly, is right outside Chief Police, outside the government here. So there's a beacon tree, I don't know, working its magic and its power and energy into the government here. So yeah, tapping into that for me is important when I'm doing the work that I'm doing, especially when it feels so thankless and pointless and scary. A lot, definitely scary. And so knowing that beautiful tree's outside and drawing on that and working with its support is vital. Walking into the forest and everyone being your friend, knowing all the plants as your friends, is a beautiful thing. For me, just hawthorn especially, but there are so many, all of them. Ivy and holly, they're my allies and my friends. I invite you to begin to be friends with the plants, because this is the way for us to save the planet, is through, rather than beating ourselves up. We could be beating ourselves up with the rod for not doing the recycling or driving or having children or not being vegetarian or whatever it is that you might be beating yourself up for. That's an option and it's part of the mix. We need to be doing these things. But the other side is the carrot, and the carrot is having a love and relationship that is a passionate, sexual and besotted affair with Mother Earth. and with all the bit facets, folds and juicy yumminess that is her, to just keep peeling back the layers and loving every second of it. The more you know, the more there is to know. She's the mistress that just keeps on giving, and it's never ending, and she is everything, and she's more than anything you could possibly have ever comprehended, and it keeps blowing your mind every step of the way. Honestly, it's the best trip there is. And I've tried them all. Mother Nature is the trip. So get on that. Get involved and get in there. I hope you're all safe from all of the Mother Earth kicking offness that's happening, which is absolutely fair enough. I hope you're all okay and safe and warm and dry. And I will see you next week. A huge love, and see thee anon.